some heroes, so it touches my heart. And I shouldn't even just say we have some heroes, because I think that every one of us, you know, has that energy within us. Every one of us have given to make life better for other people. So I was thinking about what you were saying. You know, I think I want to talk about that in my talk, because I was thinking about our parents. You know, and it's so true that I've heard. How many of you have ever heard that we choose our parents? And I'm going, oh my God. We chose our parents. Think about that. That's pretty huge if you know, really step into that. And I was thinking as you were talking, you know, I chose my parents, you know, and I've got to tell the story about them, because I've told it here before, but there's a lot of you new here. But I grew up, they were married for 50 years. They're both gone right now, but they were married for, you know, 50 years, I think, before. And there was 5 of us kids, and every moment of every day they battled back and forth. They bickered and battled and bickered and battled. There was never any calmness at all. And so finally, when all the kids left, all the kids, the last kid, we had 5 of us, left, then what happened is Mom moved out, got an apartment, moved about 150 miles away and got her own apartment. He goes, huh. I got some peace finally. I finally got some peace, okay? Now, Dad sold the house, moved over to Seattle with her, right next door to her, in an apartment next door. You know? Now go figure that. Go figure that. You know? Finally, peace. And there was one woman actually right between them. Mom's apartment was here, Dad's apartment was here, and here was this woman between them. I pity that poor woman. But till the day they died, you know, they bickered, but it was like they loved each other, but they hated each other. There was this love-hate relationship. And that's kind of, you know, how I grew up. You know, but I look back now and I go, oh my God, the gifts. You know, you look back and you see what you went through in your life, no matter what your mothering or your fathering, you know, was like. The gifts I see now were huge. You know, and I loved them both with all my heart. And I never really thought they loved each other until I got older and I looked back and I saw the gifts, you know. And I'm finding out that, you know, this big dysfunctional 5 kids family that I lived in had so many gifts. At the time I didn't know it. All I did was dream about getting out of town. You know? I was ready to just leave. And now when we all get together, the ones that are left, you know, my heart goes back to those days. And it's just, you know, awesome. I think back about the gifts, you know, and how we needed each other at the time. You know, how we all need each other. And that's kind of what this whole talk is about. It's about, it takes all of us, you know, to make this, you know, work. It takes all of us, this connection that we have with each other. You know, I was thinking about, you know, being part of a community. You know, it's all about relationship, and that's why everybody comes to community. Usually it's not to hear us, it's more to connect with other people and to find people that you can share with, because that is so huge in life, you know, that we grow emotionally, physically, and spiritually when we are connected with each other. You know, emotionally we become healthier when we can rub up against each other. Spiritually we learn from each other. And physically we just darn need each other to move chairs and put a thing together. I was thinking about yesterday, I was planting flowers. I went to the Home Depot, I got these great flowers, and Jenny bought them, I picked them out. She loaded the car, she drilled holes in the little pots, and the kids helped me plant them. It took all of us. It took this village to make this beautiful backyard that we're putting together. And I was thinking, you know, Carolyn May said that our basic instinct is to connect. You know, that's who we are, is to be together. And it's not always easy, is it? I mean, you know, I was thinking of, oh, this awesome family, you know, that I have now. I love them with all my heart. But sometimes it gets pretty hectic. It gets pretty hard. You ever feel that too? You know, sometimes everything's not perfect, you know, in your family or in your community. And the truth is, we need that too. And I want to tell you a story you've heard before, but I think it's pretty key to what we're talking about today, that it's pretty easy in a community to get along with the nice people. Okay? Not that you're all not nice, but there's times when everybody's not always nice, right? And even in this community, there's people that have quirky personalities, and you know, and so I want to kind of talk about that, you know, and I'm one of them. Okay, so I'm saying that everybody's just not always loving and forgiving, and so it takes all of us. So if you've heard the story about Gurdjieff, Gurdjieff was a philosopher, and he was a spiritual leader in France. Actually, he was in France. And he had a spiritual community like this. And that's what he did. He created communities all over the place. And you had to pay to be in his community, though. They all lived together. They learned to really, connect and be together. But there was this one old man that they couldn't get along with. He was messy, he was rude, he was mean, he was stinky. Wasn't like the rest of them. Nobody liked him. Nobody liked him. And so one day when Gurdjieff left, and they all got together, and this man got so upset that he left because everybody was kind of mean to him, and they just didn't like him, and they told him. So the guy left, and he went off to Paris. So when Gurdjieff gets back, he says, "What happened to this guy? What happened to the guy?" And they said, "Oh, thank God he left. He left us. Now we can have this peaceful community. We have this place where everybody connects. We're all together. We don't have to deal with him." Gurdjieff left. He went to France, and he found that guy, and he begged him to come back. And the guy said, "No, I'm not coming back. They're mean to me. I don't like them." And he goes, "Look, I'll pay you. I will pay you to come back." And he paid him handsomely. He came back to the community. This is true, too. Came back to the community. Everybody was really irritated. I can't say what I was going to say. They were really, really irritated with him. And they said, "Why'd you do this?" And he had a meeting with everybody. And he said, this man is like the yeast in bread. He said, he is what makes you grow. We need people in community that aren't perfect. We need people that have obnoxious personalities. We don't have to worry about that. I'm kidding. But the truth is that it takes all of us. It takes all of us to grow. It takes the whole village, see, to grow. We transform in community by village, by growing and rubbing up against each other, and by arguing sometimes, and then by looking at your stuff and saying, "Ooh, why do I feel this way about somebody? Why do I feel this way about this person?" Because it makes us look at our own stuff. Because if it's out there, and if you're experiencing it out there, guess what? It's in here. It's in here. It's not about the other person. See, it wasn't about that old crabby man. It was about each one of them. Each one of them. See, and so I look back like, the truth is, in this community, we don't have a lot of that. But in my family, we did. And in your families, you probably do. In your relationships, you do. And the truth is, you don't run away. You don't run away from your families and your communities because things don't work out the way you want them to. What you do is you go inside and you find out why. And when you can grow enough, if you need to leave, you leave. But you grow here first. You come to terms with your feelings. You're clear. And that's what communities do. That's what they do. They help us to grow. So what is it about somebody? Like if there's somebody in your family, and I look at you, and I don't want to look straight at each one because I know your story, so you'll think I'm talking about you or your family. So, if I'm looking at you, that's not what I'm doing. But I'm saying that sometimes it's hard, to deal with people that are angry, or people that are, not very nice people, but we would say nice people. And the truth is that the spiritual mature thing to do is to be able to step into a maturity of seeing more than what meets the eye. It's being able to look inside and understand maybe what's going on inside of somebody. That's what spiritual mature people do. And that's what we're called to do, is to look inside at why somebody is angry and how can we heal them. And in spiritual community, this is so important. You guys are the foundation of the world. And if people can get it here and go out and affect the world, we change the world that way. Does that make sense? That's how we make a difference. We don't just go out and serve the homeless with our hands. We serve the homeless with our hearts. But by feeling clear inside, by feeling love, by responding to someone's anger with love. There's healing power in being deeply heard. So I want to talk about that for a minute. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I think it's so important, is that the wisdom of listening to somebody in pain in your life. And this is all important because we're dealing every day with people that are angry, and we're dealing with people that are obnoxious. And the truth is, they need to be heard. And I read this story, and I just completely, I loved it. And I can't even remember, it was a long time ago, I tried to find this story and I couldn't, but it was about this lady, and she used to sit in the park. And she was just this, like, awesome presence. Her eyes were big and brown, and she used to just sit there. And when people would come sit next to her, she would just look at them and she would say, tell me your story. You know, tell me your story. And the person that wrote it was somebody that sat next to her. And what she said was that as she sat next to her, she was never one to want to talk, you know, about what was going on in her. But this presence that this woman had, and all of you have this presence, you really have that in you to do. And the woman sat next to her, and she said, tell me, you know, tell me what's going on. And all of a sudden she said that this layer of thoughts and feelings started to kind of roll out. And they were kind of, at first, kind of jumbled, and she didn't know what was going on in her life, and she kind of was embarrassed to kind of talk about it with a stranger. But then as the woman just sat there with her presence, another layer came out of all of her feelings. And then all of a sudden, more layers of feelings and emotions came out. She started to cry, and there were big blocks in her, inside of her, that were released. And this whole energy started to flow out, and she cried and she cried. And she said it was the biggest healing that she'd ever had. That as she unblocked this energy, that this new clear energy of spirit, is what she called it, poured through her. Just from sitting there sharing her pain with somebody who would listen. The woman did nothing but listen, didn't offer advice. You know, so often when people are sharing, we jump in with our story of how to fix them. This woman just sat there, and she listened compassionately. We tried to do that here one time, and I would love to do that again, because listening compassionately to somebody else's story in your life, somebody that maybe you're not too fond of, I think you would see a different person. You would find out who they are. You would give them the gift of releasing everything. And that's what we're talking about, is it takes each of us. What if everybody was able to do that to everybody in their life? You know, each person. You know, what gift can you give somebody in your life? And if it's not what if you can't give a physical gift? What if you can't give a material gift? Can you give them the gift of just listening, of opening your heart and just listening to someone's pain? It's huge. You know, it's a huge thing. St. Benedict wrote this document 1,500 years ago, and it was called The Rule. 1,500 years ago. Can you believe that? The Rule. And here's what it said. It was actually for people who lived in monasteries. There was small communities of about 15 or more. And he said, in order to grow as a human being, we need all kinds of people. And whoever ever comes into this community, greet them. Greet them with your heart. Prepare a place in your heart for everybody, all kinds, even if they aren't like you. And that's what this call is today, is to be able to make a place in your heart for everyone. Listen to them. Open your heart. See it differently. You know, Carolyn May said that the highest form of service to the world takes authenticity, honesty, and self-esteem. What it takes is honesty to see what's inside there. What's inside of each of us? You know, what are you feeling? What's inside? You know, with spiritual maturity comes the capacity to be honest with what you're feeling. And she tells the story of a homeless man, and she says that we all do this with, not all of us, but many of us do this with the homeless people. That there'll be a homeless person, you know, as you're driving down the street and you'll see them. And most of us kind of turn our head and pretend that we don't see them because it hurts. You know, some of us will give money, but we'll give it out of either ego to please somebody else, or we'll do it out of fear just because we think we should. But she says, what we're called to do is to check our feelings with it. You know, if we want to ignore them, if that's what you need to do, then you need to at least acknowledge in your heart that you're ignoring them. You need to know how you're feeling. She said, that's how we serve the world, by being honest and clear channel to what we're feeling inside. You know, she says, it's okay, you don't have to give them money, but at least acknowledge that they're there into yourself. You know, we need to observe and know what's going on in us all the time. I knew somebody, man, this was difficult. I knew somebody that had a really difficult time looking at very, very old people that were mentally challenged, right? You know what I'm saying? There's drooling, and it's just, there's some things that are very difficult. And the person I was close to had just this difficult time looking at that person. He even went out of his way sometimes so he didn't have to see those people because it hurts so bad for him. This was interesting. He never acknowledged that fear inside of it, and he became that person. He became that person who became very, very old-looking, drooling, challenged. He became that which he couldn't see. See, life has a way of giving us what we need, not what we want necessarily. Isn't that a Rolling Stone song? Yeah. You don't always get what you want, but you always get what you need. You always get what you need. It takes a village. It takes a village to become more than we thought that we could be, you know. For our spiritual maturity, we need each other. Good or not, perfect or not, we need each other. And as we mature, we start to become fully human beings. We have a divine inside of us, but we become fully awesome. I did a talk on awesome humans, and that's what you become when you find out who you are inside and when you reach out to serve the other. Journey can be tough. Spiritual journey hurts, doesn't it? The human journey hurts, you know, but through our gift of precious human birth, we're called to do this, to touch our greater self, that divine, to mature into authentic, compassionate human beings who connect, who become conscious. So that's my prayer this day, is that we love so deeply, that we serve each other consciously, and that we remember, we are these divine, incredible beings. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you for being here.